Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to 5 ways British and American movie theatres are very different. Now, I remember the first time that me and my family went to Florida, which was in 2002, I think it was. If it was either 2002 or 2003, we went to the Magic Johnson Theatre. I don't remember much, but I remember it being that specific theatre, and it felt quite similar to British theatres, but I vaguely remember people talking more during the films than typically here. But that's the only real difference that I can remember. Like, I would guess that maybe American movie theatres on average might be larger, just because there's more space in America. You can afford to make the theaters bigger. But then again, some of our theaters here are huge. Like typically, even the one near my family home, like the View Cinema near my family home, the big ones, the big rooms seat probably, honestly, 1,500 people, 1,000 to 1,500 people, a lot of people. So yeah, I've wondered how do they differ, your theaters to our movie theaters, and who better to make this kind of video than Lawrence from Lost in the Pond. He's probably the best YouTuber for this kind of content. It's going to be really cool because I do like going to movie theaters. I'm a big cinema fan. So yeah, this should be fun. Let's do it.
In Britain, I always got the sense that we perceived this American reaction to blockbuster films as quite unusual because the actors aren't actually there to receive the applause. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And one of those memos pertains to movie theatres/cinemas.
Movie theaters. Yeah, over here we call them cinemas. Yeah.
We'll get onto terminology later. But as somebody who's been frequenting cinemas since 1987, when I went to see both Superman 4: The Quest for Peace and Masters of the Universe, 2 films criminally overlooked by the Academy, I've had my fair share of experience of cinemas in both Britain and America. And while cinema complexes in both countries do have things in common, such as the smell of popcorn and human there are also some subtle and not so subtle differences. Now, cinemas, of course, have taken something of a hit during the COVID-19 pandemic, but in the event that reports of their death are exaggerated, here are epic ways that British and American movie theatres are very different. I suppose the first difference that I noticed when it comes to cinemas was that some of the cinema chains that I was used to in Britain either don't exist in the United States or just aren't as prominent.
Like the big chains here in the UK are Odeon, View, and IMAX, and Showcase. Those are the 4 big ones. The biggest one is probably Odeon, closely followed by View, and then the other 2 are kind of like the step below. What are the big chains in America?
Back home, if you're looking for a multiplex cinema, you'll want to Google one of the big 3. Cineworld, View Cinemas, and Odeon. In the United States, the big 3 are completely and utterly a little bit different. Those are Cinemark Theatres, Regal Cinemas, and the really big one, AMC, which happens to own Odeon in the United Kingdom. Personally, as somebody who doesn't choose his cinemas by brand name, but rather by whether they're showing the film that I want to watch, I don't really have a preference either way. But I know that humans, being humans, probably do have strong feelings on this, so let me know in the comments below.
I will say, if there was an IMAX cinema near my house or my flat, I'd probably go there because the IMAX cinemas are stupidly big. The screens are ridiculously huge. They're a bit more expensive though, but yeah, massive.
One thing I can definitely say about both British and American cinemas is that they both do pretty well about showing the other country's films. So for example, as a kid, I went to see Back to the Future 2, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Police Academy 6, while in America, I and many other people went to see the likes of Philomena, The King's Speech, Bridget Jones 3, Shut Up. But there's one thing, for various reasons or another, that often gets changed. The title of the film.
Yeah.
Down the road, I do intend to do what Americans call a deeper dive into this. But to whet your appetite, here's a brief list of films that were released under different names in Britain and America.
I'm guessing, like, because Harry Potter, like, it was called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, But I think in America, you guys call it Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I always wondered, why did they change that?
2017's Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales was rebranded in the UK as Pirates of the Caribbean Salazar's Revenge. On the other hand, the 2001 British-made film The 51st State was released in the United States as Formula 51, owing to the perception that the original title would somehow be offensive to American audiences.
Really?
Because in this context, the expression 51st State refers to America's perceived dominance over Britain. And, you know, from experience, that's how most Americans see our relationship, so why on earth did they change it? One that's quite personal to me, having lived in the US state of Indiana, is the film Hoosiers. But because the term Hoosiers is a demonym for people from Indiana and is little known outside of the United States, this feel-good sports film was renamed Best Shot in the United Kingdom. And I only discovered recently that a film that was released when I was a kid called Bigfoot and the Hendersons was released under the slightly different name of Harry and the Hendersons in the United States. Now, there are an absolute boatload of different title variations, so if you would like to learn more about these, subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I begin my deeper dive. And then
I'm guessing, the main reason for that is got to be marketability. Maybe they just think that, you know, to maximize sales, you know, and maybe to simplify things, because maybe Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone does flow better, I guess.
Of course, there's the very important question of cinema snacks. And for Americans visiting Britain, don't worry, we do popcorn, hot dogs and soft drinks, although probably at a smaller size.
Yeah.
Some cinemas will also allow alcoholic beverages. I suppose the major difference that really stood out to me was the type of candy and or sweets, as well as pre-packaged savoury snacks that you can pick up at Concessions. In America, you're more likely to find Doritos than you are KP Crisps. And when it comes to chocolate snacks, both countries might do M&Ms, but Britain also rolls out the Maltesers and various Cadbury products, whereas the US has a line of candy that I'd never heard of before moving to the United States. So things like Milk Duds, Raisinets, Whoppers, Bunch Crunch, and of course, Reese's Pieces.
The only one I've heard of from that list is Reese's Pieces. I don't know about you guys, but snacks in the cinemas, like if you want to buy a hot dog, the prices are extortionate. Like a hot dog, the smallest hot dog at the View Cinema near my family's house, you're looking at £7. So like almost, what's that, $9 for a hot dog? It's insane. What we do, we just buy stuff like from McDonald's or wherever and just take it into the cinema, like, because they don't mind, they just let you do it. I just don't know why they don't lower the prices, because I'd rather just, I don't want to have to like walk in there with a bunch of stuff. But I mean, if you're charging £7 for a hot dog and, you know, £5 for a large popcorn, it's crazy.
Now, one thing that separates British moviegoers from their American counterparts is the way they show their appreciation for a rousing major blockbuster. In Britain, if we love the film, we don't really do anything except sit there in silence with an upper lip that remains as stiff as the acting in the Twilight Saga. We walk out and then we talk about the film in glowing terms. In America, it can be different. I remember at the end of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a film that is universally loved and isn't divisive whatsoever, everybody in this Indianapolis cinema just stood up and applauded and cheered. Like they were at a baseball game. I take that back. Nobody cheers at a baseball game. They just, you know, talk to each other and drink beer. Now, I should clarify, this reaction isn't normal for most movies, right? You're not going to see a whole room of people stand up and applaud the King's Speech, although I did because, you know, Britain. You get them, George. But the big blockbusters with ultra-intense fan bases do tend to bring out that reaction. Wow. In Britain, I always got the sense that we perceived this American reaction to blockbuster films as quite unusual because the actors aren't actually there to receive the applause. And it gets me wondering, right, at the end of my videos, do Americans clap? Don't answer that. I don't want to know either way.
That said, I do remember watching the Avengers Infinity War and the Endgame movies. Like there was a lot of like, you know, clapping and whooping when like a certain hero, like when Captain America lifted Thor's hammer, the cinema just went crazy. So it does happen here, but it's very rare, and it's usually like a Marvel film.
And we can hardly talk about the differences between British and American movie theatres without discussing the words that each country uses to navigate it. Firstly, there's the building itself. Throughout this video, you've heard me interchangeably use the words movie theatre and cinema. Cinema perhaps being the most prominent word for this in the United Kingdom. While in the United States, where cinema is used to a lesser extent, movie theatre is more common. It's worth noting in this case that theatre is famously spelled differently from how it would be in Britain, where we've retained the old French spelling. However, even though I knew this difference when moving to America, I was surprised to find that America often retains the old French spelling when referring to the type of theatre that has a stage with actors who can appreciate your applause. Of course, Americans might also simply say, "We went to the movies." And for me, an equivalent of this in Britain is when we say, "We went to the pictures."
But nobody really, like at least here in London, nobody really says that. We say, yeah, we went to the cinema. Nobody says we really went to the pictures. Maybe it's like a regional thing, because I think Lawrence is from up north.
You know, a movie is just moving pictures. Either way, there's a pretty good reason that Brits are less likely to say the movies or movie theatre. And that's because we're less likely to use the word movie itself. Instead, we often refer to a movie as a film, or less commonly, a flick. And there are two other cinema-related words that are less commonly used these days, but were all the rage when I was a kid. The first is a word to describe a break midway through a film, in which, you know, you head to the loo or pick up extra refreshments, ideally not at the same time. In Britain, we always called this the interval, whereas in America, it's known as the intermission. And time was when cinema going was so popular that people would line up down the streets just to get in the building. In the north of England, a common refrain for this was, "We had to queue up around the corner." Whereas in America, it might be something like, "The line ran for 3 blocks." Contrary to popular belief, by the way, this likely didn't inform the origin of the word blockbuster, which seems to have derived from the name of an aerial bomb capable of destroying whole blocks of buildings.
Oh my God.
And, you know, maybe that gives rise to why people describe things like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace as a box office bomb. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you frequented.
Another fun video from Lawrence. It does seem that mostly, you know, the cinema experience here in the UK versus that in the US is super similar, you know, and I think over time it will continue to get more and more similar just because we consume the same movies pretty much. How much does it cost you, like in terms of buying a ticket to go to the movies? Like over here, like, so the movie theatre, the cinema near my house in Essex, near my family's house, it used to cost like £12 to £13 for an adult ticket. But then a rival cinema opened up a branch which forced the price down. So now it's £5 for an adult ticket, which is an amazing deal for London. It's ridiculous, to be honest. Like typically you're paying, £12 to £15 for an adult ticket to go to the movies here. It's insane. Like how much does it cost you over there? I'm guessing it depends on what region you're in. It's probably going to be more expensive in somewhere like Los Angeles or New York City versus somewhere like Arkansas. But yeah, let me know. Fun video though, really enjoyed it. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.